nessun dorma, nessun dorma. Pura principessa nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me, il nome mio nessun saprà, no, no, sul tuo lo dirò quando la luce splenderà. Ed il mio bacio scioglierà il silenzio che ti fa mia. Il nome suo nessun saprà e noi dovremmo morir, morir tramontate stelle, tramontate stelle, all'alba vincerò, vincerò,
Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, we're going to be learning how to play Nessun Dorma. So first off, I've got to give a big shout out to Ashley for an incredible vocal performance, plus Evan for an incredible ukulele arrangement and performance. So thank you guys, because without the two of you, this lesson wouldn't be possible. So I've been working on learning how to play this, practicing how to teach it, and over all this time that I've been working on it, I've had a few thoughts in who this lesson is going to be best suited for, and I think it's best suited for the intermediate player. It's not really hard what we're doing with our left and our right hand for that playing level. Rather, I think this is going to be a great study in playing with feeling and rubato. Now, if you're new to the concept of rubato, I'd recommend watching this lesson. I'll link it in the description box below as well. But check out that lesson before you jump into learning this tune, because understanding how to do rubato in a natural way is key to making this song flow effortlessly. So with that said, let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play the entire song. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, do a search for Nessun Dorma. Now, also on that page will be the interactive on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Oh, and one thing to add, we actually have a backing track for this song too. So if you want to download the vocals of Ashley singing, just the vocal track by herself, you can do so too at that page. So once you learn this song, if you want to play it with the vocalist, you'll be able to do that. And we'll upload a couple speeds. So we'll have 100% and 75%. And I'll take a listen to what 50% sounds like. If you can feel the beat, I'll upload a 50% as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into learning how to play it. So the first thing I want to talk about is Which tuning are we using? Well, Evan used a high G ukulele for the performance, but you can actually play this song on low G as well. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to play it on my low G because, truth be told, we only need the 4th string. It's only really prevalent in 4 bars out of the entire song. And those 4 bars come at the very end of the tune. Now I'm going to play it on my low G as well because my low G has a bit of a thicker neck and a little bit more space in the frets than my high G, even though they're both concerts. And that makes this song easier to play on because once we get into bar number 1, you're going to see that we've got this squished augmented chord that we have to learn. And it's a little bit tricky on a smaller neck and a smaller fretboard. So it's a lot more comfortable and I get less hand cramps in my left hand. So I'm going to play it on the low G, but you're welcome to use either or for this lesson. Now, as far as our right hand approach for finger picking, it's fairly straightforward. We can use a 3-finger approach, meaning string 4, which we really don't play, only a few times, is going to be played with the thumb. String 3 is also with the thumb. The index finger gets string 2. Middle finger gets string 1. So that's a 3-finger. 4-finger approach, pretty self-explanatory. Each finger gets its own string. You can bounce between 3 and 4-finger, but most of this stuff is pretty simple to play in terms of what our right hand's doing. So let's go ahead and jump into the first measure. So we're starting off on theme 1, and here's what our first bar sounds like. And it's going to be playing out of everyone's favorite chord, the E major chord. I'm going to give you a tip on E major in a second because that's one of the most asked about chords in Facebook groups. So keep that thought in mind, and here's what our first bar sounds like. So, E major, this comes up all the time in the Facebook ukulele groups I'm in, where people have a lot of struggle in playing this chord. And understandably, it's a hard chord to play. But here's the thing. If you're playing on a high G ukulele, then this note right here, the B note, is the exact identical unison pitch to the note that's on the 4th string, this B note right here. Now remember, I'm playing this song on low G, so I'm actually an octave lower, which means I have a lower pitch of the B and a higher pitch of the B right there. So when I make the full E chord shape, I get a little bit more color in the sound. But if you're playing this tune on a high G, then this note is identical to that note. And so when you have an E chord pop up in a song, if you want to make it easier on your left hand, then just fret the chord using strings 3, 2, and 1 and omitting string 4 because it's literally just duplicating the notes you already have. So there's my helpful tip in how to make E major a little bit easier. And with that said, let's put up the tab for measure 1 and measure 2. So here again is what I just played, so we can hear it again. If you take a quick glance at measure 2, you're going to notice it's identical to measure 1. Okay, so if we learn how to play measure 1, we've got it for measure 2 as well. So with our E chord thought in mind, take the middle finger, put it on the 4th fret of string 3, ring finger's underneath, so that's 4th fret on string 2. Index finger is on the 2nd fret of string 1. And that gives us an easier way to fret the E major. Now, here's what I want you to do. Lift the index and the ring finger up. We don't need it at the get-go of playing this bar. We're just going to start with our middle finger down. So go ahead and play that note, which is the 3rd string. And then I want you to take the index, put it on the 2nd fret of string 2, play that note. Then take the ring finger, put it on the 4th fret of string 2, so directly underneath that middle. Then drop your index finger down to the 2nd fret of string 1. And you can see that we have formed the E major chord, right? So we start this measure off with just the middle down, and then we start to build the actual chord shape. So that's the trick in how to play this easy. If you look at the rhythm too, all eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and. So just keep it nice and steady. So take a moment just to get comfortable with that. And let's see if we can try that part together. So we have 1 and 2, go. 1 and 2, go. Not bad, right? One more time. 1 and 2, go. 1 and 2, go. Now, with the E chord intact, we're literally just going to walk our way back up. So play string 2, string 3, and then here's where it gets a little bit tricky. You're going to take these 2 fingers and you're going to move them down a half step. And give me a strum. So this is an augmented, it's a B augmented chord. It's tricky because we've got squished fingers, right? But if we look again at the second half, we have 3 and 4. Okay? So we're literally walking second string, third string, so up that chord, and then moving down a half step, strumming the augmented. Okay, let's see if we can put that entire bar together. And I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just play it on a loop a few times. So you listen for once, maybe twice, and then you come in and play with me. That'll be a good way to practice this. Nice. How did you do? So that was a few times through, but again, if you look at bar 1 and measure 2, bar 1 and 2, you can notice that they're identical. So you're just going to play this opening phrase 2 times in a row and get this opening phrase memorized because it's going to pop up again and again throughout the tune. All right, so let's take a look at measure 3 and 4. Now, if we look at the first half of measure 3, you're going to notice something familiar. It starts exactly the same as measure 1, right? So you start with the middle, add the index, the ring, then drop down, you form the E chord. So you know how to play the first half already. So take a look at the second half. It's going to sound and look like this. Okay? So a little variation plucking out of that E chord. And here's what we're going to do. Start with the E chord intact, play string 2, lift the ring finger up, move the index back up to the 2nd fret on string 2, play that, then back to string 3, then back to string 2. So notice my index finger stays anchored after it gets moved up. So starting on beat 3, we have pretty simple stuff, right? That entire bar together. Let's see if you and I can try that. And let's do that same approach. We'll just put it on a little loop. All eighth notes, keep it nice and steady. So I play it once, you come in the second time. Good. Not too hard, right? Taking a look at measure 4, it's going to sound like this. Okay, so let's break that one down. Now, we want to think about where we left off. We left off with middle and index on 4 and 2. So we're going to start this one by putting our ring finger back underneath the middle. So go ahead and play that. That's 4 on string 2. Drop your index down to the 2nd fret on string 1. And you can see that we've got the entire chord shape formed, right? So those are our first 2 notes. So thinking back where we left off, at the end of measure 3, we add our ring down and then drop the index down. At this point, you can take the pinky finger, play 6 and 7. So that's exactly how Evan does it. He just uses the pinky for 6 and 7 on string 1. Then he goes back to 2 with the index, 4 on string 2 with the ring, And then you can see that we're back to the augmented to end the tune, or the measure. We're not ending the tune just yet. So taking a step back, that entire measure together, we start with the ring to the index, pinky, 6, 7, back to the index, to the ring, then augmented. So putting it together. That's pretty fast, slowing it down. Okay, let's see if we can try that together. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to start where you left off, measure 3. So remember we left off on 4 on string 3 and 2 on string 2. So we're going to start by adding the ring, dropping down the index, then doing the pinky action. Okay, so we'll start from right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just count this one in for us. All eighth notes up until that last hit, which is quarter. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. Beautiful. Now 3 to 4 sounds like this. Okay, so take that one really, really slow. I know I played it pretty brisk tempo right there, but just go slow. Remember, all eighths. Up until you get to the augmented, which is a quarter. So I want you to practice that one nice and slow. We could try to play along if you want. We can try about that speed. So we have ba da 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 ba dum ba da. That's pretty good tempo. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. Nice. So that gives us our first 4 bars for theme 1. So you want to think back to everything that we've learned so far, which is bar 1, 2 is the same, 3 plays out of the E, 4 does as well, up until it gets to the augmented. Okay? So nothing too groundbreaking or tricky so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at measure 5 and measure 6. Now, looking at measure 5, off the bat, we're going to notice that it's identical to measure number 1. So let's skip over that and let's look at measure number 6. Now, measure number 6, if you look at just the first half, what do you notice? It's identical to how measure number 1, measure number 3, and of course measure number 5, because that's the same as 1, starts. So we already know how to play the first half of measure number 6. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second half, because it's kind of cool what happens. Now, here's what I want you to do. Make that B augmented chord that we've done quite a few times now, and I want you to move it all the way up the neck until you get to 7 and 6. So we've got 7, 7, 6. So we have just a little variation on this chord up here. So we can do a strum or a pluck of strings 1, 2, and 3, then hit string 3, and then lift the index finger up, we don't need it. Move these 2 fingers down to the 3rd fret. Hit those 2 notes, and then string 3 by itself. So you're literally going all the way up the neck with that same shape, and then dropping it down to the 3rd fret. You can see it's the same shape, right? So we're just going boom, 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 boom. But when we come down, we don't even need the index finger, so it's a lot easier. So together, there's on a loop a few times if you want to practice. Loops are always a great way to get this stuff down. You can always use the YouTube cog to slow the playback speed as well. If that's a little bit too fast, you can go a little bit slower. But when you feel comfortable with that, if I put bar 6 together, it sounds like this. Okay, Let's see if we can try that together. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and ready, go. Nice. A lot of this music too, it helps to kind of sway and kind of feel the beats as well. You know, even though these are really simple in the beginning, just eighth notes, it's still good to kind of move your body. If you go back and watch Evan play it, which we're actually going to listen to him play the first 8 bars in just a second. Look at how he sways to the music. You know, he's not sitting there like a statue and playing like that. He's feeling the music and his body's moving to the music, right? So don't be afraid to sit in your chair and feel what you're playing. Helps get that emotion across. But that's everything for 6, so slight little variation. If we look at measure 7 and 8, we're going to notice that they're identical to measure 1, and remember that measure 2 was identical to 1. So you're literally going back, you're playing those first 2 bars again. So here's what we're going to do, guys. Let's go ahead and just take a listen to everything that we've covered, and I'm going to put a clip in of Evan playing just those first 8 bars all by himself. And when you listen to it, I want you to really focus in on how he's playing, right? So when we touched in the intro on rubato, that's really important here. So, you know, he's not playing perfectly like ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? He's not playing like a robot where it's perfectly in time, right? He's kind of playing to create enough room for the singer to do the incredible vocal. So you want to be a little bit loose in the timing and just kind of feel it and not rush it. Have a human element to your playing. So listen to how he interprets it, and it's a great way to study and how you want to play it. So here's our first 8 bars played by Evan. All right, so as we go into our 9th measure, this is going to be the start of the second half of theme 1, so we've got 8 more bars to learn. And the 9th measure kind of concludes the feel of the first 8 bars. So here's what it sounds like. Off the bat, you notice that it's all 8th notes and just single note melodies. Look at the first half of bar 9. We're going to see something that we already know how to play. So we're picking out of that E chord to a T, just like we did in measure 1. So let's start with the E chord intact and tackle the second half of this bar. So I want you to pluck string 2, string 1, then take the pinky, go to 6, and then 7. So the ending is super easy. Let's see if we can tackle that entire bar, and I'll just put it on a loop. Okay, so not too hard for that measure. Now, as we go into our 10th bar, this is the start of, I guess we can kind of think of it like the chorus, right? And this is where I think the ukulele part really starts to shine because we've got some of that melody included in what we're playing. So let me go ahead and play through this 10th bar, then we'll break it down and learn it. Sounds like this. So that's a good gist of what our the 10th bar in its entirety sounds like. So the first thing I would recommend doing is just to kind of sing it, all right? It doesn't matter if you hit all the notes with your voice, but you just want to get that bum ba da 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 da. You want to get that melody and those rhythms stuck in your head. It's going to make it so much easier to play, because if you look at the rhythmic notation, you can see that's a little bit tricky. We have 1 and a 2e and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2e and a 3 and a 4 and a, right? So you can approach it that way. But I would also try to kind of, sing it a little bit instead of going 1 and a 2e and a 3 and a 4 and a, right? Harkens back to what I talked about earlier about just kind of grooving in the chair and feeling that music. 1 and a 2e and a 3 and a 4 and a bum ba da 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 da. Right? That's going to help you get this part down so much easier. Now our 10th bar is going to be playing out of a B major chord. Now I think this is a shape that most of us know how to do, but let's go ahead and break it down just in case we don't. So take the index finger, lay it flat on strings 1 and 2, 2nd fret. Middle finger goes onto the 3rd fret of string 3, and our ring finger goes onto the 4th fret of string 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and change how I do this first hit. So instead of adding that ring finger up top, I'm going to go ahead and just strum from 3 down. So I'm going to omit string number 4, and I'm going to change the tab ever so slightly just to make it a strum from 3 down. Instead of 4, 3, and 2, I'm going to go 3, 2, and 1. Now the reason why is that if you look at what we're about to play, we have a melody line that walks up the A string. So it seems like a lot of extra work to take my ring finger from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier and cut some of that movement out. So if you want to be like me for that first hit, just fret the chord, omit string 4, and strum 3 down. So that's going to be my first hit. After that, we have a run of 16th notes that walk a melody up. Now that melody is going to be played using double stops. Now double stop is just fancy terminology that means we're playing 2 notes at the same time. So our double stop is going to be string 1 and 2. So pluck string 1 and 2, then hit string 3 by itself. Add the ring finger to the 4th fret of string 1, give me the double stop, then string 3, then add the pinky to 6, give me the double stop, back to string 3. Notice this entire time that I kept these fingers planted, so the chord stayed planted and the ring finger stayed planted. That's really important once we get into the second half of this bar, because we're literally going to walk back to finish up the melody. Okay, so keep that thought in mind. But for right now, let's see if we can do just the first half. So we have, sounds like that. There's a couple times through, so let's see if we can do it on a loop. So we have 1 and 2 and that's our rhythm, pretty simple. Okay, at this point, lift the pinky up, go ahead and give me a strum with the ring finger held down. Okay, now this is going to be a 8th note. That's going to be followed by 16ths. So 3 and a 4 and a. But then it has an 8th and then 16ths. It's kind of tricky, right? 3 and a 4 and a ba 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 da. So you kind of want to get that stuck in your head. So ba da da ba ba. Okay. So again, start with the ring down. Give me a strum. Hit string 3, lift the ring up, give me the double stop, put the ring back down, give me the double stop, go back to string 3, lift the ring up, and move the index down to the 1st fret of the A string. So a little bit tricky, but more so than our left hand movement, what makes it hard is the rhythm. So you want to get that stuck in your head. So if we put this one onto a loop for us to practice, maybe we'll go D, go, ready, go, ready, go. That's kind of a good way to practice it. But of course, I think if we put it together, this bar makes a lot more sense. Musical sense when we have context to it. And I think the best way to practice it is to actually start on the end of one, because that's when the momentum starts, right? Right, so we have that movement, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-da. So let's see if we can do that. We're going to start on the end of one for our practicing, and we can put it on a little loop. Okay, when you feel good with that, you can go back and add that first hit. To give you the complete 10th bar. So that's how I would approach practicing it. Just kind of breaking it down in sections and practicing the momentum part before adding the first hit to give you the full bar. But let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in measure 11 and 12 now. 11 is really cool because we're going to be playing a bar of 2-4, so only 2 beats in this measure. So it sounds like this. So it's very short, very sweet, but it's a cool walk down. So you just want to get that stuck in your head. Ba da da ba ba. And this one's a lot easier to play than the previous bar. So we're going to start with the E chord, but we actually don't even need the index finger, right? So we have middle and ring on 4, on string 3 and 2. So you can give me a strum or a pluck, either works. So we're just going to do it as a double stop. Then we're going to play string 3, string 2, then take the index finger, put it on the 3rd fret of string 3, hit that note, linger there for a little bit, then play string 2 and string 3 again. So we have 1 and a 2 and a. So very simple. Let's try together. It's a really, really easy bar. Now, look at the next measure. The first hit is the 1st fret of the 3rd string. So let's try going into that first hit. We can try 11 into the first hit of 12. Okay, now look at the end of beat 1 in bar 12. That's where our momentum starts, and that's where we're going to focus our practicing for this bar. There we go. So we're playing out of a C sharp minor. So go ahead and just lay flat on the 4th fret, strings 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to start with a strum. You can pluck it if you prefer, but I'm going to go ahead and do a strum. Hit string 3 by itself, then add my ring finger to the 6th fret of string 1, and we have double stops again. So string 1 and 2. Back to string 3, then pinky goes down on 7, double stop, back to string 3. That gives us the first half. Notice that index stays anchored, ring stays put as well. Because if you look at the second half, we're literally going to do the same thing we did for bar 10, where we start to walk down. Okay? So we want to keep that ring finger anchored when we add it. So starting on the end of 1, the C sharp minor hit. Let's see if we can do that. It's all 16th notes, so we have 1. Okay, so not too bad because it's kind of the same theme as bar 10. Now if we look at the second half, we're going to lift the pinky up. We can strum for the first hit. And look at the rhythm. 3 and a 4 and a. It was that same ending rhythm as bar 10. So you know how to play that already. It's going to make this part easier. So go ahead and start with the strum, then play string 3, lift the ring up, give me a double stop, go back down with the ring, double stop, then string 3, and then add the pinky to 7 on string 2. That's the last note. But of course, the rhythm that we want. 3 and a 4 and a. So bam, ba, 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 da, da. 3 and a 4 and a. So let's see if we can get that down. Sounds like that. So we have bam, pa, pa, ba, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. Nice. If we backtrack, starting on that end of 1, because that's where our momentum starts. That's it on a loop a few times. I know it's fast, but again, you can use the little cog to slow down to a speed that's good for you. But that's how I would practice that measure. And of course, you do want to go back eventually, and you want to practice all these transitions, like 11, going into 12. But for right now, just take little small sections like we're doing throughout this tutorial and practice that before you start to add everything and connect it one bar to the next and to the next and so forth. But that gives us 11 and 12. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in 13 and 14. So here's what 13 sounds like. There we go. So the first chord we're playing is a shape we all know and love. It's a G chord. But if you move it down a half step, we get what we want for this song, which is an F sharp major. So make the G chord shape and just move it down a half step so you're on 1, 2, and 1. So again, we can strum or pluck. Doesn't really matter, whichever one feels best for you, but playing from 3 down. Then hit string 3 by itself. Move back to the E major chord, the same one we did in the very first bar of the tune. Same thing, we can strum or pluck from 3 down. So just take a second to get that transition. And it's not too hard because you have the ring finger in common, right? So the ring finger literally goes from the 2nd fret, slides up to the 4th fret, and then these 2 fingers flip-flop. So not too hard of a transition. So when you feel comfortable with that, we can add it to the rhythm, which is super simple. 1 and 2. Doesn't get easier than that, right? Now, the next hit is going to be string 3 by itself, and you're going to slide up to 6. Okay, so you've got 4 to 6. So in the context, 1 and 2 and So super easy. 1 and 2 and Okay? Now here's the thing though. When you're doing that slide, you actually kind of want to keep this chord intact because the next chord you're moving to, while it is a F sharp in its name, it's the same shape as the E, just moved up a whole step, right? So we have 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so when you do that slide 4 to 6 on string 3, just pluck the 3rd string by itself, but just slide that whole chord up with it. Okay, so if we try that together, we have 1 and 2 and 3. Ready, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3. Ready, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3. Nice. Now at this point, you're going to pluck the double stop, string 1 and 2, string 3 by itself. Then we're going to change to an E major 7. So bar flat on the 4th fret, strings 1, 2, and 3, and add your ring finger to 6 on 1. Give me a hit or a pluck, so strum or a pluck from 3 down, then hit string 3, and then add your pinky to 7 on 1, and give me a double stop. Now, here's what's hard. It's the rhythm of this last half. So starting on beat 3, right, we've got the E chord shape moved up a whole step. So we have bam ba da 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 da, 3 and a 4e end. So 3 and a 4e end. So you want to get that stuck in your membrane, right? Okay, so we have strum, pluck, 3, switch the chord, pluck, 3, pluck. So strum, pluck, 3, pluck, 3, pluck. So strum, double, 3 by itself, switch. I would probably pluck that hits a little bit easier on the right hand. String 3 by itself, then pinky. Okay, so 3 and a 4e and 3 and a 4e and. So just go slow, practice just that by itself. When you get comfortable with it, we can put it together. So we have I don't expect you to play all of those looped with me, but try and come in on at least one of them, okay? That one is a little tricky at the tail end, but I think it's still a lot easier than bar 10 and 12, which I think are probably the hardest ones that we've done. But let's take a look at 14. So 14 goes all the way up to a B5. So this is a shape I think we all have played. We know the G5 shape. It's in a lot of songs. If we move it up the neck to 6, 7, and 9, we get where we want to end up with, which is this B5. So first, second, pinky, from 3 down. So if that blew your mind, how one chord can move all the way up and be called another one, yet it's the same shape, then check out our lesson on the caged method. I'm going to link it in the description box below. It explains all that stuff to a T. So get that chord shape down, and you're going to hit that on beat 1 for this bar. And here's what happens that's really cool. If you look at the end of 1, all the way to the first hit for beat 4, it's identical to what you did for measure 10. So remember, measure 10 sounded like this. So there's 10 and 14. It's almost identical, right? So you know how to play the majority of this 14th bar. Barring that first hit, you start with the B5 up here, then you go down and you play the exact same remainder of beat 1, 2, and 3 as you did in bar 10. But beat 4 is a little bit different. So let's start on beat 4. Take that ring finger, put it down on the 4th fret of string 1, and we've got this B chord shape intact. We're going to do a double stop, string 1 and 2, then string 3, and then double stop again, string 1 and 2, but do a quick hammer on to the 6th fret of string 1. So beat 4 by itself sounds like that. 4E end. So it's a quick grace note on the end. 4E end. So 4E end. Okay, so I want you to give me a quick boom, hammer on end. Just like that. 4E end. So hit pause, just practice that on your own. Ba da da. Ba da hammer, right? Ba da da. Make it sound just like that. So if I play that bar in its entirety, and again I'm going to start where the momentum begins, which is the end of 1, it sounds like this. Okay, so I think that one, since it's so similar, I don't think we need to do a play along for that bar. I think you guys can tackle that one well enough on your own. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last 2 bars for this first theme, which is 15 and 16. And it gets really, really easy at the end. So I'm going to play these 2 bars in their entirety. Sounds like this. Okay, let's break this one down. We're going to start with that E major 7. So remember, flat on 4, ring is on 6 on the A string. So give me a strum, string 3, 2, 3, double stop. So we have 1 and 2 and pluck. Okay, going into the next measure, we can go to the B. If you're playing a high G, you can strum 4 to 2. If you're playing a low G like me, just strum 3 and 2. Then hit string 3. Then we can do a double stop, string 3, and back to the F sharp. So we have 1 and 2 and 3. So we try those 2 bars together. They're super easy compared to what we have done in the previous measures. So they sound like this all the way through. We've got with me. So very, very simple compared to the previous bars. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We covered 9 through 16 now, so let's do this. Let's take a listen to Evan playing those 8 bars, and then we'll come back and we will take a listen to all of theme 1. So we'll start with these 8 bars, the final 8 bars. All right, so now that we've listened to those final 8 bars, let's listen to theme 1 in its entirety. So again, I want to give you a friendly reminder as you're listening to Evan play all of these measures, I want you to be tailored in and how he's playing it, right? Rubato is key in this tune, so listen to where he's playing a little bit slower in a couple bars or where he's playing a little bit quicker. Just listen to the overall feel, because that's what you want to mimic in your own playing. So here's all 16 bars. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into theme number 2. And there's not a ton of music to learn because there's a ton of repetition, and we even see repetition in the first bar. So let's put up 17 and 18. Now, if you look at the first hit for this bar, we've got a strum of the E major chord, but look at the end of 1. That's what it sounds like starting on the end of 1. That was the exact same notes we played for measure 3. Measure 3 was this. Right, measure 3 ended on that second fret of string 2. Well, we're not playing that note because we substituted it out for a strum on the first hit. So you're literally just going to go strum and then play measure 3. Stopping on the second to last note. And it's that simple. So we already know how to play 17. Let's jump over to 18. Now 18 sounds like this. A little variation. It's actually kind of cool. So we've got let's break that one down. So again, we're starting with the E, so we're going to strum for the first hit, then play string 3, string 2, give me a double stop, string 3, and then take your pinky, go to 6 on 1. Now, rhythm is key here. 1 and a 2E end. So that's what we want to hit. So 1 and a 2E end. There we go. 1 and a 2E end. That's easier to call out. Okay, let's see if we can try that on a loop. Beautiful. Now we're going to this E5. So take your ring finger, give me a partial bar, 7th fret, string 1 and 2, add your index to 4 on string 3. Strum 3 down, then go back to the B augmented. Strum 3 down. Take a look at the rhythm. Quarters. 3, 4. So those are pretty easy hits. What's hard is to tie it together. One more time. So not too bad. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the next couple bars, 19 and 20, and we're going to notice that they are identical to measure 6 and measure 1. So we know how to play both of these already. Let's jump over that, and let's look at measure 21 and 22. Now, look at 21, the first half of it. It's the same as the first measure, so we're just building that E chord. Look at the second half. We're back to the E5. And we've got a little walk-up variation that we're playing. So make the E5. We're going to do a strum, play string 2, string 3, string 1, and then jump up with your pinky to 11. Okay, rhythm. 3 and a 4 and. Okay. 3 and a 4 and, so not too bad. We try together. Ready, go. 3 and a 4 and ready, go. Okay, that entire bar for context sounds like that. Now 22, you can see that you're back to playing that melody of the chorus. Okay, so 22 through 28 is identical to measures 10 to 16. So that's actually going to give us the entirety of theme 2, because theme 2 is kind of a bit abridged, right? We only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We only had 12 bars, so 4 bars less than theme 1. And as I said in the beginning of this theme, there's not a ton of music because it's a ton of repetition. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to theme 2 in its entirety, so that's bars 17 through 28. So it's got those few new bars that we just covered, plus that same chorus to a T that you already know how to play. So let's take a listen to theme 2 in its entirety. All right, so now we're in our home run stretch, theme 3. And theme 3 starts off with 3 new bars. And they're very, very cool. And they're literally the only new music we have to do up until the very last couple bars of the tune, which is literally 1 chord. So here's what we've got. Now, if you're playing on a high G, remember that your fourth string is going to just be an octave in pitch higher than mine. But if you're playing on a low G, it'll sound like mine. But they're both the same note, so it doesn't make a big difference in which tuning you chose to use. So that's what our first bar sounds like. So let's go ahead and put up 29 and 30. And let's break down just 29. So it's playing out of the same E, but it's the full E chord shape. So you can make it like that, like the traditional way. I tend to use the thumb because I think it's a little bit more comfortable for me to grab it. So I'm using my thumb for 4th fret of string 4, middle ring index, just as we did throughout the rest of the tune. So for this, we're literally just playing straight out of the chord. So you just got to memorize the rhythm and the picking pattern. So we start with a strum, then we're going to walk straight down. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3. That gives us our first half. Strum, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3. 1, and a 2, E, and a. Okay? Looking at the second half, it's a little bit trickier. 3, and a 4, and a. So we're going to do a double stop, then string 4, string 3, double stop this time, string 3 and 2. Then you have 4, 1. But the rhythm is key. So ba, 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 ba. 3 and a 4 and a. Okay? So if we try that entire bar together, it's going to sound like this. So it's not too hard because we're literally just playing right out of the E chord. Now let's go ahead and look at our 30th measure. And it's playing out of that E5, but this time around we're going to do a full 4-string chord. So we learned the E5 before as 4, sev, sev. Just move the index finger up so it covers 4 on string 4 as well. Okay, so this one, I believe it's the same pattern as the previous bar. Yeah, so it's the exact same right hand pattern, same rhythms. So everything is copied to a T. So if you've got the first bar down, you can play this one really easily. Let's try it together just a couple times on a loop. So not too bad, right? So as we go into our final measure, this is where it gets a little bit harder. So this E chord, here's what I would suggest doing. I would start with string 3, 2, and 1 before adding your ring finger. So you're going to start with your middle finger on 8 on string 3, index is 7 on string 2, and your pinky goes to 11 on string 1. So get those 3 strings added before you add the ring finger to 9 on string 4 to give you the full shape. Because if you think of the context, when you move up to this chord, it's going to be a lot easier to grab just these 3 by itself and then add the ring finger. Because if you look at the ring finger, it doesn't come in until the end of 1. Right? So there's no need for us to try to grab all 4 at the same time. It's just too hard, too hard. So that's my little tip for you guys. Bottom 3 first, then add the ring at the end. So this one is a little bit different of a pattern, but here's what makes it easier. You can see RIT written above, and it starts on that 11th fret single note on the A string. So you start to retardando on that note. So that means that we never have to play this bar up to speed. We're always going to play it slower, which makes it so much easier to do. So if I play this measure by itself, sounds like that. So you can hear it just gradually slows down. That makes it so much easier to do because it's not a fun fingering. It's a very hard fingering to do. So let's break it down. Start with just the 3 fingers for the bottom. Give me a strum, then add your ring finger up top We're going to go 4, 3, 2, 1. And when we get to that 1, that 11 on string 1, that's where you're going to start to do the retardando. So you've got strum at the ring, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start to slow down. Back to 4, 3, double stop, 4, 3, 2. Move the pinky down to 9, strum. If you have a high G, you can hit the 4 on string 4. If you have a low G, lift the pinky up, play 7 on string 1. That'll give you a nice ending note. Okay? So again, we have strum, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start to slow. 4, 3, double, 4, 3, 2. Move the pinky down, strum, and then string 4 if you're on a high G, or lift the pinky up, 7 on 1 if you're on a low G. So together, 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and. So you can hear that I just started to slow down, right? That's the key. We never have to play this one to a T. So the key thing to recognize rhythmically though, you have 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and. So always do it with that retardando. We don't need to play this one in time. It's too hard anyways. You know, Evan has these Olympic chords and I tell him all the time not to do too many of them, but it works for this song. Still, it takes a lot of work. It's a hard chord to do. Okay, so that's what we end up with. So let's do this, guys. So let's take a listen to Evan playing 29, 30, and 31 so we can get a context of what this little section sounds like. So you can hear he's doing 29, 30, he's got some tempo, some momentum, and then 31 has that retardando. That's key for the music, right? So we want to climax and then come back down for this section. Now here's the cool thing. If we look at 32, we're just jumping back into that chorus. So 32 to 35 are the exact same bars as 10 to 13. So you're just going to be playing the first 1, 2, 3, 4 bars of the chorus. So let's go ahead and skip to the end of that. So let's look at 35 and 36. So you can see the last bar of the chorus that he was doing, because it's a bridge, it's cut short, was that bar, right? Now the only difference that he's got here, if you look at beat 4, he literally adds one extra note at the end. So if I play this bar to a T as it's notated, so you can hear that I added a little bit of a retardando at the end. So you can start it on beat 3 or beat 4, but you just want to have a nice gradual slowdown before you go into the very last chord, which is the B sus2. We're literally just going to do a free time vamp on it. So to make this chord, take your pinky, put it on the 9th fret of string 1, middle finger 7 on string 2, and bar your index finger across the 6th fret, string 4 and 3. Now since I'm playing on a low G, I'm going to highlight strings 3, 2, and 1. If you've got a high G, you can play all 4. But essentially what I'm going to do is something like that. I'm just going to take the now of middle ring pinky, and I'm just going to go probably about the 12th fret, just down and up really fast. And eventually I'm going to start to slow down this really quick down and up. And that's going to give me a little bit of a kind of a taper to a resolution. Okay, so you're going to start with one strum, then you're going to go very fast, start to gradually slow down, maybe a couple of single note hits, and then one more strum to end it. Okay, so something like this. Right, and you can hear it's real choppy, real loose, because there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's always up to you on how you want to do it. So just take it and play whatever feels right in the moment. If you like that, it's kind of a bit abrupt. If you want something a little bit smoother. Try to keep it a little bit more consistent when you start to slow down. No right or wrong, so you take it and make it your own. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and backtrack now. Let's take a listen to all of theme 3 in its entirety, and then just really put a focus on how Evan interpreted it. That might give you some ideas for that B sus2 chord at the very end if you want to copy him to a T. But again, no right or wrong way to end the tune. So here's what theme 3 sounds like in its entirety. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up everything for this lesson. Now this is a really cool tune and a pretty fun one to play, especially when that melody kicks in on the choruses. Now we do have a backing track, so if you actually want to play along with Ashley singing it, you'll be able to get that backing track at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Nessun Dorma. Now also on that page were the tabs that you can print off, keep for your records, plus the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. So you can literally hit play, you can loop bars, you can slow it down to any speed. Just a great tool in practicing this song. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will catch you in the next lesson. Take care.